Hi everyone, welcome to the 13th chapter of Mary Stewart's Thornyhold. It's been a little bit of a gap, sorry about that, work takes over life, but yep, we're back, and this is an interesting chapter. It kind of straddles two worlds, so, you have Jilly's little world and Thornyhold, where she's the mistress of the manor, and she has a few kooky characters coming in and out. And then there is the outside world, depicted by the village of Arnside. Now, whenever I start reading up descriptions of English countryside villages and their kind of main squares and the kind of shops that you have there, the kind of things that happen, I absolutely fall in love with those descriptions, whether it's in books or in the series that we see these days. So, you have your Vicar of Dibley, you have your Miss Marple series, or for that matter, you have Doc Martin. Doc Martin has amazing characters in that central part of town, and each one of them, even if they are not the main character of the series itself, they are very, very integral parts. Now, Arnside, the way it's being described and everything, you don't get so much character build-up, for sure. I think I have definitely indulged in what it might be in my head of the colorful characters that might inhabit it. You have, in my head there's a baker, there's a greengrocer, there's a butcher shop, there's the place where you, the fishmonger, you get your fish wrapped in wax paper, tied up with brown string. It's all very quaint, all very lovely, all very country, and all very simple. So, yes, I think, although this chapter doesn't go into that much description of the village itself, it gives us glimpses, for sure. So, with that, let's begin the chapter. The pen and ink drawing at the start of this is one we have seen in the past as well. It's the one where it depicts the rooftop of a house with a chimney, and then there is this whole flock of pigeons kind of flying around it. So, yes, with that, let's start the chapter. When I left for Arnside soon after lunch, I took care to lock both doors. Arnside was a pleasant, small market town with a few good shops, a cobbled marketplace, and a church rather too big for its present needs. The choice of shops was not great, and I soon made my selection and registered for groceries and meat, did what shopping I could, then visited the bank and made myself known to the manager, a pleasant man, Thorpe by name, who spoke warmly of my cousin Galis and expressed himself very willing to help me in whatever way he could. I handed over the letters from Martin and Martin, signed papers opening my new bank account, and was shown a very cheering balance. On my asking Mr. Thorpe's advice about installing a telephone, he made the call for me there and then. It was still not easy, he told me, to get a new line put in, but as Thornyhold was so isolated, he thought he could press my case, and the telephone would surely be installed before winter came. And yes, he said, he knew Hanneke's garage at St. Thorn, and when I did see my way clear to buying a car, I would be in safe hands there. Finally, on my mentioning Mrs. Trapp, he put a call through for me to Martin and Martin, and then left his office while I took it. What I heard from them did something to set my mind at rest. They had certainly informed Mrs. Trapp of Miss Ramsay's impending arrival sometime in September, and Miss Saxon having employed her from time to time, Mrs. Trapp had her own key, or rather, knew where one was kept. By the same token, the solicitors had judged her to be the best person to get the house ready for me. They did hope that all was well. I was quite satisfied with the way I had found things. I assured them that I was, thanked them, thanked Mrs. Thorpe, and then, on the strength of that bank balance, went into the ironmonger's next door and managed to buy, with a feeling of quite absurd pleasure, the first gift for my new home, a pair of tea towels and 3 yellow dusters. Then I set off for home. After only a mile or so on the main highway, my way branched off into empty country roads, which curled along in the shade of deep banks clad with ivy and crowned with trees. Here and there along the roadside were quarries, long disused, where road metal had been dug. They were filled now with thickets of sloe and bramble, and I could see the sunlight glinting on fruit reddening to ripeness. I remembered the empty jars in the tool shed, ready for the bramble jelly I intended to make. Of such small things is happiness made. I pedalled home to the sound of tins clinking in the basket, and presently turned in through the drive gates towards Thornyhold. As I passed the lodge, I saw Agnes, out in the tiny yard at the side, pegging out some towels and a couple of checked shirts, which must belong to Jessamy. She hung the peg bag on the line and waved, taking a step towards me. I stopped, and she approached, smiling. "You been to town?" "Yes, I enjoyed it too. It's a lovely ride, isn't it? It's years since I've been on a bike, but it's true that you don't forget how. By the time I got to the end of the drive, I felt fine, and there was very little traffic on the main road. It can be bad market days, when the farmer's gone in. Nice town, though, isn't it?" "Very. I didn't really explore because I wanted to get back, but there seemed to be lots to see. The church looks lovely, almost a cathedral. Is the music good?" "Music?" She looked blank. "I don't know much about music. Never been in there, anyway. You're a church-goer, then?" I laughed. Brought up to be as regular as clockwork. A quick look. "More than your auntie was?" "Not my aunt, my cousin. You don't surprise me. I seem to remember that she wasn't exactly a believer." A nod, as if I had confirmed something. Then another speculative look at me. "Is everything all right at the house? You look as if you haven't slept. Was them birds in the roof disturbing you? Jessamy told me about that pigeon. All sorts used to go in there after the food. Dirty things. Vermin, I call them. But fond of them all she was, for all she was such a real lady." "Kept you awake, did they?" "No, actually, there was only one, and I didn't hear it at all." "You should have let Jessamy bring it away with the dead one, and kept that window shut." "I'll think about it, but I did sleep pretty well, thank you." "That's all right, then. I just thought you looked a bit peaky. You don't mind me asking?" "Of course not." The questions, surely too many for casual interest, made me decide to probe a little on my own account. As a matter of fact, I did have a bad dream. "That's nasty. When you're alone in the house? What was it about, then?" "Certainly not casual." "I've forgotten," I said indifferently. "No, there was something in it about music, but you know how it is with dreams. They seem terribly vivid, but as soon as you wake up, they're gone." "I thought maybe it was about me, seeing as it was a bad dream." She laughed merrily, looking at me sideways. "Do you know," I said slowly, "I think you did come into it somewhere. But that sounds rude, doesn't it? Oh, yes, there's something I've been meaning to ask you about. There's a dog barking at night. It seems quite near. Do you know whose it is and where? It sounds, well, I wondered if it was all right. I couldn't say, I'm sure. You get used to the noise after a bit in the country. I've never noticed. Well, never mind. I must get back now. Oh, Mrs. Trapp. Agnes. Do call me Agnes. Agnes, then. When will the brambles be ripe enough for jam? If this sun goes on another week, and you might find plenty. They grow down this way, along the road you came. I know, I saw them. You make your own, then? Oh, yes. That is, if I can find the recipe. Miss Saxon seems to have left quite a stock of sugar. I'd rather make jelly than jam with the brambles. But I never can remember quantities, and my own books haven't come yet. Have you got a good one? I have, but you use Miss Saxon's. She has lots of books. You'll find a recipe somewhere. She was always trying things, and if they came out well, she'd write them down herself. Her jams and such were real lovely, better than anyone else's. Oh, I will then, if I can find it. Didn't she give it to you? She never gave her recipes to no one. But if you do find her book and you don't mind, I'd be right pleased to see it. I did look in the kitchen when I had the books down to clean, but it wasn't there. I reckon it would be in the still room, along with the concoctions she made up there. Wine and such she would make. Cordials she called them, and very good they were. But the last year or so she didn't bother so much. You ever made wines yourself? No, but I'd like to learn. I'll look out for the recipes, and we might have a go. I take that kindly. You do your own baking as well? Eyeing the bread flour in my basket. You got your rations all right then? And that's a nice chicken. Bolter's, was it? You've been lucky there, and I see he let you have 2 eggs. Like gold they were these days, so watch those tins don't break them. I can let you have a box for them if you like. Thanks, but it's not worth it. I'm nearly home, and I'm being careful. I'll only get 1 a week after this. I had 2 weeks' rations to pick up today. Well, said Agnes, when you get to know folks better. She let it hang, then added meaningly, I never knew your auntie to go short. It looks like it. Her store cupboard's a sight for sore eyes. Well, goodbye, Agnes. It's a lovely drying day, isn't it? I've got some washing out, and it'll be ready for ironing by now, I expect. When I got home, I wheeled the cycle straight round to the shed, and was startled to see that the back door stood open. William appeared on the step. William, how did you get in? He ignored the question. He was bright with excitement. Oh, Miss Galis, did you know Hodge was back? Yes, he came back last night. But, William, how did you get into the house? It's all right. I don't mind seeing it's you, but I was so sure I'd locked the doors, and I know the back door was bolted. I went out by the front. Oh, there's a broken snick on the back kitchen window. It's been bust for ages, but Miss Galis never bothered. I got here, Hodge was waiting on the sill, and I thought he'd just come home and was hungry, so I climbed in and got him some milk. You really don't mind? No. You said he would come back. How did you find him? Where was he? He came back himself late last night. He was dreadfully hungry, and he looked as if he'd had a bad fright. William, did you know Miss Galis kept pigeons? Yes, of course, in the attic. All the birds used to come in. I used to help her feed them. But just before she went to hospital, someone came with a big basket and took them away. Let me carry yours for you. Gosh, it's heavy. Oh, you got 2 tins of cat food, and doesn't the fish smell? I needn't have asked if you knew Hodge was back. It looks as if he's the only one going to eat. I laughed as I followed him into the house. I got a chicken and 2 whole eggs, so I won't starve yet a while unless Hodge helps me with that too. He probably will. But I brought you some eggs. My dad sent them. That's why I came over. There's a dozen, all brown ones. I put them on the kitchen table. Why, how lovely. Thank you very much. Please thank your father for me. Where do you live, William? Over towards Tidworth. It's Boscobel. At least it used to be called Tag's Farm, but that changed the name. Boscobel's nicer than Tag Farm. Is your father a farmer then? No, it's not a farm now. It's just a house. Dad writes. Writes what? Books. I've never read one. Not right through, that is. I tried once, but it was a bit dry. He's pretty famous, I think, but it's not his real name. What is it? Peter Vaughan. Have you read them? I'm afraid not. But I do know the name. I'll have to look for his books, now that I've met you. Is he writing just now? Yes, and it puts him in an awful temper most of the time, so I come out, said William simply. He can't do with me around the house at such times. It sounded like an echo of something often said. I smiled. And your mother? Does she hide away from him too? She does better than that. She left us. His tone was quite indifferent. Has Hodge had his dinner? Yes, he had it before I went out. But you can give him some of the fish if you like, while I get my things off. When I came back into the kitchen, Hodge was under the table, with his chin in a saucer, with William kneeling beside him. The boy's face was rapt, loving. I thought of my own childhood, so rich in practical care, so starved of the real needs of the lonely and imaginative child. I had wondered why a lively boy seemed happy to spend so much time, first with my cousin, who was old enough to be his grandmother, and now apparently with me. Much was now explained. The self-absorbed father, the absent mother, the long days of the school holiday. There was no need to feel pangs of conscience about letting him stay and help. Presumably, his father knew where he was. But one day soon I would have to find my way to Boscobel and make myself known there, and find out if the child was needed at his own home or not. William looked up. What are you thinking about? You look kind of sad. Not sad, I said, and nothing much. The first was true, the second a lie. I was thinking 3 things. The first was that Agnes Trapp had examined the contents of my basket, and had not seen fit to remark on the couple of tins of cat food and the damp, smelly parcel of fish scraps that cushioned the eggs from them. She who remarked on everything. Hence, she knew that Hodge was home. She had also asked with some interest how I had slept last night. And thirdly, there had been a way into the house last night for someone who knew the snick on the back window was broken. If William could climb in and unfasten the door, so could Jessamy. It was crazy. It was in itself a nightmare, but was it possible that Agnes and her son Jessamy had really been in my bedroom last night, and that they had carried in the grass and the dead leaf? That in the moment between sleeping and waking they had been in very fact bending over my bed, and had seen Hodge then, even a glimpse of him, as presumably he had jumped off my pillow and fled into hiding. But why? William had told me that Agnes had had the place upside down looking for something, and I had certainly arrived too soon for her. I had declined her help in my cleaning, and since then had kept the doors locked. But it really was absurd. If she had wanted to search the house, she could do far better to wait till I was out, like today, than break in at night with the risk of waking me. Unless, of course, she could have drugged my sleep. More and more absurd. And how and when? While I was upstairs in the bathroom? The sound I had heard. Easier still, the pie she had given me for supper. Some drug dropped in it to make me sleep heavily, which had induced that incredible nightmare of flight and fantasy. Forget it, Jilly. And don't pretend the woman is anything but perfectly friendly and helpful, or that there's anything weird about this place or anything to do with it, because Thornyhold is heaven, and you love it. William, I said suddenly, what time did you come along here to the house, I mean? About 2 o'clock. You can't have been gone long, because Mrs. Trapp came up just after and said she'd seen you go out the main gate. She was here? Something in my tone caught at him. He eyed me. Yes. Why did she come? She didn't say. She just said how funny that you'd wash the sheets again when they were just fresh on, and were the eggs for you, and she would put them in the pantry and take the sheets in because they were dry. So I said she couldn't because the doors were locked, and you'd taken the back door key, and I was going to do some gardening and wait for you myself. I was silent. I'd locked the door again, you see. When I'd given Hodge his milk, I came out again to get the eggs. I couldn't carry them when I climbed in, and then I saw her coming through the wood, and so I just shut the door and put the key in my pocket. I took a breath. She'll think I don't trust her, I said uncertainly. Miss Galis didn't. She told me. Oh? Some relic of my Victorian upbringing made me feel how unsuitable it was to let a child talk so. But William was more sensible than a lot of adults I had known. Besides, I needed to know. Did you tell her Hodge was back? Or did she see him? No, he went upstairs after he'd had the milk. I didn't tell her because she hates Hodge, and he hates her. That's why he went. After Miss Galis died, Mrs. Trapp was going to drown him. William! It's true, I heard her say so. Who to? Jessamy. He's all right, actually, but he's a bit simple, and he's scared of her, and does what she tells him. I see. A lot was beginning to explain itself. I decided to treat his fear as rational. So that's why you were so worried about Hodge's disappearance? He nodded. And about the saucers that weren't touched? Yes. I didn't tell you for fear of upsetting you, too. You know, the saucers were probably quite all right. You didn't find the place strewn with dead birds and voles, did you? No. He smiled then, relieved, I thought, at not being laughed at. I was indeed far from laughing. I said slowly after a pause, Well, look, William, this may all be true, but one needs to be on good terms with one's neighbours. So just go easy with Mrs. Trapp, will you? Even if you don't like her. Or even if, much more important, Hodge doesn't like her. So far she's been very good to me, and I want it to stay that way. Okay? Okay, said William the sensible. She was good to Dad, and me too. Made cakes and things for us, and she's a smashing cook. But she used to stay around and talk, and Dad couldn't take it. I told you. I get chased out myself when he's busy. I don't mind her, really. It's only because of Hodge. She was probably joking about Hodge. It can't be easy to drown a full-grown cat, even if he would have let her catch him. Anyway, he's all right now. We all are, said William, half to himself, half to Hodge, who was sitting back from the saucer and starting to wash his face. I'll go on with some weeding now, if you like. He paused in the doorway. By the way, did you notice that your bicycle pump had come back? It's on the shelf in the shed. Flew, I expect. And with that, we come to the end of chapter 13.